Boa noite, pessoal. Sejam muito bem-vindos a mais uma live do evento Quem Quer Ser um Diplomata. Hoje falaremos sobre uma matéria decisiva para o concurso, língua inglesa. Receberemos o professor Sean Dowling, especialista em preparação para o CACD há mais de 12 anos e ex-professor titular do Instituto Rio Branco, onde lecionou diplomatas por 10 anos. Aproveito para lembrar também que as matrículas para o Extensivo CACD 2026 já estão oficialmente abertas. O Extensivo é o curso que mais aprova para o CACD e, nesta edição, está ainda mais completo, com mais de 560 horas aula, cobrindo todo o edital, mentoria extensiva com diplomatas e, claro, professores líderes em aprovação. Essa edição ela conta ainda com bônus especiais, como um grupo de estudo exclusivo, oficina de questões com monitor especializado para treinar as técnicas de resposta, além de workshops de gestão de tempo e autonomia dos estudos. Bom, essa é a hora de garantir a sua vaga com 36% de desconto, que é válido apenas para o primeiro lote. O link para baixar a ementa com a descrição completa do curso está na descrição do vídeo e no chat. Agora, vamos receber o professor Sean Dowling, que vai mostrar como estudar inglês de forma estratégica para o CACD. Quais erros evitar e como evoluir até o nível exigido pelo certame. Seja muito bem-vindo, professor.
Muito obrigado. Thank you very much. Então, a gente vai falar um pouquinho de português inicialmente, para vocês ficarem acostumados com meu voz. We are going to speak now in English. Claro, você pode perguntar qualquer coisa em português ou in English. But as we're practicing English, we're talking about English, then this session will be English. And it helps you understand the level that you need in order to do well when you're studying English, of course, and then getting to Instituto Rio Branco. I was a teacher at Rio Branco for many years, for over 10 years. But now I work in many different places. Let's move on. So who am I? Well, I'm, of course, an English teacher. I have a master's in teaching English as a foreign language, it's up there here, and a specialist diploma in teaching adults. And I work in all these places. Okay, I have courses, of course, with clipping, and been doing it for many years, and I enjoy getting people to pass. But I teach everywhere in the government, so I'm very familiar with what's happening here in Brazil, the subjects that the government are developing in all the different areas. And I get regularly invited, of course, to teach people at the highest level of government. So I've been a teacher for over 30 years. My family are all Brazilian, except for me. And I'm originally from England, but I have a lovely time living in Brasilia. Okay, so if you always want to ask me anything, go to my Instagram and ask me anything about your preparation. Any doubts, I'm very, very happy to help. It is a big step. I understand that. I have probably children of your age as well, so I know how much the investment of you and your parents have in order to pass this test. And it's a great test. Difficult, of course, but a great test. Okay, nothing about me anymore. All right. Let's talk about the exam. Now, the slides have come out a little bit difficult. Okay, so the edital, of course, says that you should have a proficient level of English, all right, which is C1 or C2. And people think, no, I don't have that level of English, all right, but you don't need to be perfect in English. Prepared many people who, when they get to Rio Branco, they have difficulty speaking. But we're not looking at speaking. And when we look at the C1 and C2, which comes from the European framework, Common European Framework of Languages, where they define it as speaking, okay? So most people are intermediate level, right? And they want to get up to a proficient level, but it's not speaking. Our exam is reading and writing, okay? So for our exam, it doesn't come out well here. As we have a Latin-based language, Portuguese, that gives us a chance to write and use the great vocabulary we have, which is similar in English, especially when we're writing formal, academic, and diplomatic language. Of course, we have to focus on that language, and that's what the course will do. You don't have to study everything, all right? If you want to study by yourself, okay, books like, of course, most popular book, like there we are, put it here. English Grammar in Use is a very good book. To dominate that, as I tell you, is a good thing to do as you're studying. There are advanced books like this one by Macmillan, Michael Vince, which I use quite a lot for grammar. But grammar is not always necessarily the issue, okay, for us, believe it or not. The issue, of course, is achieving this will require your dedication, your effort, and a course like Clipping, which will target your study and plan it with you, okay, and emphasize how to get up to that language level of reading and writing, okay, in the context of the subjects that could come on the exam, okay, and those subjects, of course, are diplomacy, foreign affairs, negotiation, conflict, climate change, all those different subjects, which makes it easier for us, believe it or not, because we know what those subjects are and we know what vocabulary to focus on. And that is very important. So having this targeted study, knowing how to study with the experience we've got, then we're able to push your level up higher. So, of course, what we need to do is master, as I said, this intermediate grammar, okay? And we'll be doing grammar on the course, okay? But we'll be looking at academic and diplomatic vocabulary. Every week, I will be giving you your fiches, okay, with the academy on, the academy with an academic language, okay, with the vocabulary you need. And of course, some of the content too, all right? So knowing some of not all, some of the advanced grammar is okay, and we get there once we've dominated the intermediate grammar, okay? If you're basic, of course, you need a lot of work, okay? But most people are intermediate, and luckily for Brazilians, as there are lots more similarities in their language than differences, then reading is never really a massive problem. The questions, of course, are difficult, but the reading itself, the context of reading is not necessarily all that difficult. Once you practice the densely styled text, then you become familiar with the style of the exam. Okay, so we need to dominate a certain level of grammar, and we need to look at how to improve our vocabulary. And that is easy because we have these targeted vocabulary exercises. Okay. So, of course, regular reading and analyzing complex text is what we're going to be doing as well, especially at the start of the course. And that's what you need to do. So even if you're with other teachers studying history, international relations, international law, all those, if there's text in English and you can read, and if they give it to you, use them, because these subjects also have lots of English text that you will need to learn. All right. Maybe they try to make it easier for you to focus on the context, but if there's extra reading and there's some English text, please take the advantages and look at those texts and the vocabulary. Of course, I'll show you how to do that. There are some specific ways we do that. Okay, and these are not techniques you find or ideas you find in a normal traditional English school. We're focused on passing the test. We're focused on pushing your level up to a higher level and using these advanced texts for you to analyze and understand more easily, okay? But you become familiar over a period of time. Next one. Let me see here. Okay. Right. Oh, so I didn't say hello to everyone. Hello, Anna and Lucas, who said hello. If anyone is there saying hello, I've just put on my comments now. Okay, so let's move on. So, of course, regular reading, analysis of text, I've repeated that one. But when we're studying for the part 1 of the exam, of course, understanding the text is important. Hi, Kenzo. Okay, and we will use inference, a lot of inference questions, look at the tone, the connotation, and the way the author is expressing himself. As we say, it's the postura do autor. Okay, hope you like my Portuguese. All right, and you can correct me anytime you want, if you want. Okay, so so looking at these structures, looking at these that we have, because when we come to write, as I'll explain in a moment, you don't have to know all of grammar. Okay, do that in Portuguese. Okay, you'll have to have a high-level Portuguese. And the good thing is, if you've got a high-level Portuguese, usually it helps translate into a high level of English too. Good Portuguese brings good English too. Okay, so we're working a lot together, all right, with history, with international relations, and with Portuguese to help with our English. Of course, the exam is different in English. It's a different philosophy. And with our practice, of course, and understanding the exam, that will come. Fine, let's go on. So the TPS, that's the first phase, if you don't know, of the exam. Requires these advanced abilities, okay? To understand, to analyze, and to have a critical, argumentative idea of complex vocabulary and more specialist vocabulary. Sometimes the vocabulary is a bit ridiculous, the questions they have, but we have to know how to answer the questions. Even I would find them difficult sometimes, okay? But we have to know how to answer the question, and of course, and not to lose points as well. So we have to of course, deal with those dense texts, okay? And then know what grammar and vocabulary questions they ask, as well as the critical types of style of question that they're going to give you as well. So so by learning, as I said, history, diplomacy, international relations, those other areas, and doing it in English is what we'll also do in the question. Now, I'm in the exam. Now, I'm not a history teacher or a diplomat or someone in international relations, but I teach a lot of people in those areas, okay? So when you're arguing, you have to have that understanding, and that's what you have to build up. So when you come to write, you have that knowledge to impress me, for example, and impress the examiner with your arguments, okay? And of course, perfect English. Now, so we have to construct a base of knowledge of history and diplomacy in English, but texts like foreign affairs, okay, so you can find that online. The Economist, of course, you have to pay for some of these. Project Syndicate, I don't think you have to pay. BBC History is good for historic events. And of course, the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR, gives some deep text that you can read. Okay, so if you want to study now, go to those different sites and get them regularly posted to you on your phone. I've got my phone here, on your phone. Okay, what's happening? All right, and then it's like clipping in a way, as we send you information all of the time of what's happening, pertinent information relevant for the exam. All right, getting these magazines or to send you information regularly helps as well. It maintains you in the zone as well, and English is with you all of the time, and that helps makes that change. All right, because it's changing that behavior is what certainly I'm going to do with you on my course, okay? Get you to behave in a way that your English becomes more natural, okay? Now, it's a difficult thing, but it becomes more natural. And when you go to the exam, you know exactly what you're doing, and of course, what language to choose. Okay, so good texts, these ones, it's a real practical one to start looking at these different magazines is really the first help you can get, okay? Of course, courses with teachers who direct you towards good texts and, of course, can deepen your understanding of these different areas of history is necessary, working together here. All right, then. So then we have to now develop a strong analytical and writing skills, and that comes with this information you're reading, okay? But we have to know how to write well. Now, remember, in the exam, you only have to write 2 pieces of information, okay? 1 composition and 1 summary, okay? Now, the summary, you don't need analytical skills, but the composition, you do. So practicing the composition and learning how to write for example, 6 paragraphs in a certain way within the vocabulary and the grammar that you've got, because it's not everything you need, helps you do this, write analytically, and you have to do it again and again and again. You have to write, make the mistakes, learn from them, point those mistakes out. It's not mistakes of grammar, it's mistakes of analysis, okay? Because in the exam, they want an intelligent diplomat. They don't want an intelligent that's a diplomat that's good in English. They want an intelligent person, someone who thinks and they can put those ideas down on a piece of paper. So analyzing the question and putting those ideas in a certain way, okay, is what you need to practice. Now, you can only do that. You know, I've done this with, for example, see if ChatGPT can do the same. And people think that it can. Now, but this exam requires a certain understanding of the examiner. Okay, he requires a certain way, because the ChatGPT will never say bad things about you, okay? You have to, although I do program it in a certain way to help me, all right, but it needs to be programmed to check that analysis. And it doesn't necessarily do that unless you have certain prompts, of course, all right? But have to ask it to analyze you, okay? Now, it's not the same as the exam, all right? All right, the exam comes in a different way. The exam, you want to pass a test, not just write a good composition. And practicing with a teacher like me, of course, who has an understanding of these areas and the exam is fundamental. All right, let's move on. So you need to develop your ability to write, okay, and be more critical and use the vocabulary which is formal and more precise, okay? So, for example, how do we get to that? How do we get to that? So you may ask. So what we're going to do, of course, on the course, I'm going to give you all that vocabulary each week. All right, I'm going to show you how to learn this vocabulary, a clear strategy. So you're making your fiche of vocabulary, okay, based on those different contexts that fall on the exam. So what we have to do is, with our fiches or with our texts, how to read the text and how to move from an intermediate level where most people are. Most people get stuck on intermediate and they don't move up to this higher level. And we're going to do that by getting the vocabulary and the context and linking these words together so we express ourselves at a higher level. Now, we call them collocations or lexical phrases, okay? Because when we're learning language, we're looking at words and grammar at a lower level, and that's fine, right? But it limits you up to a certain level. So this plateau we hit, if we don't change the behavior, as I was saying, for you to learn to look at vocabulary differently, not new vocabulary, but vocabulary you know, which can be connected together, makes you express yourself to a higher level, okay? That's the key. That's the behavior we need to practice. and in a way, generate every week so it comes natural to you. So in the first module, I'll be doing that a lot, okay? So we'll be looking at lots and lots of vocabulary. Vocabulary you know. Maybe the vocabulary you don't see because you're only looking for new words. So there's a trick there, okay, that experienced teachers like me know how to do, all right? Because when you read a composition, if you read the composition of one of the people of past, okay, you'll see much of the vocabulary is very elegant, but there's nothing new, all right? There's nothing that you say, oh, well, I can do that. You think you can, but how to do that with the correct behavior in exam when it's under pressure, that is a step-by-step way that we're going to do, okay? Done it before, know how to do it. Believe it or not, it just needs that effort and discipline for you. I can help you. There's no problem with that. I love doing it, okay? Changing your mind, brainwashing you in some way to get up there. And within the extensive course, that's what we'll do, especially in the first module. Okay, so you get that good foundation of all the words you need in these different ideas of these different contexts, okay, these different subjects, and work together, okay? Now, if you want to know a bit more about it, what are we doing? We're looking at how these words, verbs and nouns and adjective nouns and adverbs and adjectives go together. Now, these are the main forms that we need to put words together for the exam. So this is going to be the grammar we're looking at. So the grammar vocabulary, which is our lexis, okay? So we'll be doing that. So you'll be training with this. So it's a training course because we're training you for the exam, training you not just for improve your English, but training you for the exam. And these two go hand in hand, right? Together, they go for us to be able to improve. And you will improve a lot. Okay, so when we go back to this plateau, we're going to smash, we're going to end it to push you up to this. And so when you're reading and writing, those phrases become much easier for you, that you've got a much more specific understanding of what it is. And that's the training. Okay, there is training. Let's move on. I wrote once an article, okay, for the BBC and the British Council, okay, about this, actually, or lexical notebook. So we're going to take all you're going to need with me mainly. You don't have to buy these grammar books. If you want to, you can. You can talk to me, all right? But you need a notebook. This one I stole from the British Council. Well, I didn't steal. They gave it to me when I was in one of their events, okay, for teachers. So so we've got just a simple notebook, and that's what we're going to make our feature, our English. Going to make this going to be your academia, your gym, okay. And this is where your work's going to be. It's very important. Just all you need, of course, is a book and a pen, and then leave the cognitive part for me to sort of, as I said, brainwash you to get there, all right? To teach you how to study and train you to push you up to a higher level. How do I know this? Well, that's what I did my master's on. That's my thesis. That's what I studied. That's where I got my diploma, how to do this. And many people, if I go to international conferences, come and see me to see how I do it, okay? And I'm very lucky. I can do it at Clipping, okay? And I've got the context to be able to improve you and the objective of passing an exam that requires good reading and one composition and one summary. Okay, so that helps me in a way improve you with a more targeted work. Okay, so text again, we've said these all right. So we're constructing our these subjects with what's happening today. Okay, because we have to say, what is Brazil thinking about? Okay, we had last year it was water. 2 years ago, Sebastian, we're talking about water and conflict. That's something relevant for Brazil. And of course, this year was about AI And that's, of course, something relevant at the moment for Brazil and diplomacy worldwide. And, of course, other subjects we've studied, yes, we study conflicts anyway. We study technology, and we have that vocabulary already ready, okay? When it comes to developing the course, those questions of what could go on the test will come up, and we'll look at that vocabulary and, of course, how to analyze it, all right? And we'll discuss that and improve that. And I hope that if you start, you get together with others and do this thing. This discussion is very important for you, okay? Give you the basis to write more critically. Good. So it's a journey to the Rio Branco. It takes time, of course. Now, I suggested if you go back and see the live with all of the teachers where we were discussing this, all right, that you should do, in a way, my English course twice, especially if you're a new student, okay, or you're studying for the first time, because you cannot get everything just in one time. I don't believe it. There are a few people who pass first time, of course, great, but not many. You hear about people taking 3, 4, 5 years to study. Even it was mentioned someone took 14 years to study, all right, to pass, all right. But sometimes it's better you do the English course, watching it all, okay, and trying to do what you can. But as you're building up, okay, the subject understanding, especially if you're not familiar with international relations, or you don't have a profound understanding of Brazilian history or international history, then of course you need to follow the English course, but build that basis there. So when you come to the second year, the second time you watch it, okay, now you can do it all. Of course, everything is recorded, so you can watch it once and then watch it all again when you've got that focus to, I've got to improve my English. And then you watch the course again, okay, because it's open to you always. Everything's recorded, you miss nothing, and that's the great thing about the course, okay? So then that second time of watching, that's when you're more focused. You start to see what you've missed, and then, of course, you've got to write and practice, get your magic pen, the one you're going to use. I always joke about having a magic pen, one that knows all of the answers, all right, because you're studying with it. And then use that, okay, to write, okay, and of course, do the TPS questions. Now, I'll be producing a lot of TPS style exams, and even putting you under pressure so you feel that pressure as well, because that's an important cognitive understanding that when you're under pressure within a time limit, then some things can cause you not to see the language, okay? So that's another thing. We'll also be doing that. In a way, people think it's psychological. It's just dealing with it. It's a cognitive task that overloads your brain. When you do it 2 or 3 times, then your brain becomes more accustomed to the pressure, and then you can see the exam easily, and then you're in your mind how to pass. So there's another area that we have to consider. So this journey to Rio Branco, okay, takes time. It's not just one step in doing it all. There's too many subjects anyway. But when you come to English, you've got to be focused and ready, and the course gives you everything to pass. And I prefer you to see it twice, okay, at least, right? Because that repetition gets it into your brain. All right, so repetition, seeing the course again, even writing the same thing again, okay? Writing the same thing and correcting your mistakes and improving the arguments really helps a lot, okay? And that's one strategy you've got to do. Even if you never study with me, if you're going to start writing and you write and someone else corrects it, okay? All right, then you ask them, can I write it the same thing again to show that you know what your mistakes are, all right? Because what people do, and I'm going to say this other courses do, they get you to write, they get their red pen, they correct it, and they say, oh, great, you've got a score, now do another one. No, you've got to go back and do the same one again and improve it, and then get the teacher to see it again, all right, and say, okay, was that an improvement? Did I correct what you want? And that communication becomes better as well. It's called process writing, we call it, okay? Writing again and again, maybe writing simply and then more advanced, and then exactly the way the examiner does. There are different ways of writing, okay? I prefer you do it again and again, all right? That's the trick, really, okay? The worst thing you can do is write a composition and be corrected and leave it and think, oh, now I'm going to do a better one. No, that first one you do, you've got to make better first. And then you know what to do it, because you make the same silly mistakes in the next one, and it's a different question. It requires a different organization. It requires different information, okay? When you need to make the first one perfect. When you know what one is when a writing is perfect, then you know how to do it with the second one. And then the second one, you make mistakes again, you improve it, and you know what the problems are. And those problems you develop as you write the same thing again. All right. It's a very important tip. Right. Just don't write and then forget it. You go back to it and you do it again. All right. Now, grammar is quite easy when it comes to write. It's not a real problem, okay? And there are jeitinhos, okay, to show the examiner how good you are by not sounding Portuguese, not sounding Brazilian, and using certain grammar that he's going to be impressed with. And they're the secrets I can't tell you here, all right? We learn those, all right, when we get you up to a certain level. All right, so there are those ways of getting 70 out of 70, which is the on the composition they require to have 70 points out of 70, so you get 70 out of 100. Now, have any of my students got a perfect score? 70 out of 70? Of course they have, because we know how to get them ready and prepare them with the great English and the correct grammar and no mistakes and under pressure. Okay, so it's a build-up. It's a journey to get to that. We need a drink. I'm in Brasilia. It's very, very dry. Okay, so I think, anyway, that's it. Okay, so como estudar inglês para CACD, really? Study CACD in a study group, I always recommend that, okay? Now, you've got mentors this year here at Clipping. I think that's a fantastic thing. Someone you can cry to, someone that give you direction, okay? Someone who understands and who's done exactly what you're doing, okay? I've taught diplomats, hundreds of diplomats at Rio Branco. I know the effort that it takes, okay? But I'm not a diplomat, and I've never done the exam, but I know the effort it takes and what you're going to do after. So before and after, I have a clear vision of that. And it's fantastic when you get there, all right? The English is different there. There you need to speak. This time you don't need to speak, okay? You need to write, you need to read, all right? And of course, they will help you in your speaking naturally anyway. They give you the input necessary. So when you pass, you go to Rio Branco, then you'll be debating a lot more, okay? Because you need to speak and communicate with people. So you need you don't need any teacher, any English teacher. You need a teacher who knows how to prepare students, understands Brazilian foreign policy, understands international foreign affairs as well. Okay, because that critical part, out of 70 points, for example, you need 45 points just based on your arguments. All right, so being correct is not maybe okay for other exams, but but analyzing the question, being critical, is extremely important. Okay, so you can always ask me anything you want to know. What should I start doing? Well, you should start reading. Okay, I've given you 4 or 5 different areas to read. Okay, they're basic ones. Everyone tells you that. Okay, I will be giving you different texts, of course, to give you more varied and deeper subjects to be able to consider. And we'll be regularly doing that. So be regularly pushed, because every time you're going to have a problem, I'm going to help you overcome that barrier. We've got mentors to do that too. Okay, it's very important. Got difficulty there to help you with that barriers, because to push you up to that high level, okay? And that's how you study. You study by looking at, of course, some of the grammar. No, you don't need a really advanced grammar. It's not Portuguese, but you need how to express yourself, and that requires a change in your behavior, which we'll do basically on the course, all right, by looking at how languages connect together, okay? Now, how do I know that? Well, as I said, that's my speciality, all right? And that's what I do in all of my courses with the government. So if you are working for the government, maybe in your institution, you've had a course with me, and I've done the same thing too, okay? And yeah, I think that is it. Okay, it's a good question, Anna. Does the board have any preferences between British and American English? No, there's no preferences, but most people, of course, even when you go, we had, I remember my second class at Rio Branco, they're saying, oh, but you're British and I've got American English. It doesn't really matter when you get there. And it really, as you're only writing one composition, yeah, you know, as long as your spelling is consistent, then it's not really an issue, okay? British English is more common with diplomatic English, but it's only really the spelling. Grammar will require you use the present perfect, while American English sometimes uses simple past. And of course, it's more elegant if you use the present perfect than choosing the simple past in certain parts of the writing, okay? So they won't penalize you if you're using American English, as long as it's consistent. So they know, they're using American English, okay? But you'll really see everything in a more British form, with British spelling, okay? Not just because I'm British, because high-level good language tends to follow a more British way, okay? As I said, the present perfect is an issue, and good expressions as well, okay? These are formal academic writing. And people think that British seems to be a bit more advanced than American, so you'll find it impressive using a more British style. But it doesn't mean you'll be penalized for it, Anna. Okay, so don't really, it's not a big issue, never has been. And I've never seen somebody have a problem because of that, okay? So Lucas said, what would you say if the most difficult part is the English exam? And is CFF affiliated with any institution or government? Well, the CFR is the European framework for leveling students and doing exams like Cambridge and things like that, okay? And applying for jobs or scholarships, okay? It helps you, and then teachers, for example, know what type of level is required. And it's a world, international, really, level or explanation of what level is, okay? Now, what would I say is the most difficult part of the CSCD English, of course? Well, they're all quite difficult, but if you pass a TPS, maybe you're not great in English, and then you pass and go to the second phase, but se vai morrer na playa if you don't know how to write. So under pressure, writing composition takes time, and you can do it if you know how to prepare. And that can be the most difficult part, because people think writing is not as important as the TPS. So everyone focuses on the TPS, but they don't write. So in a way, you should be writing first, because you're going to get the vocabulary, you're going to understand the grammar, and keep doing it at the same time as reading, right? And then do the TPS, okay? Yes, Tenage, I do. Many people don't. I do correction. Okay, so what I'll do in the extensive course, I'll show you. For example, in the second module, all right, I will be. We'll use this in the forum. Okay, I'll be showing you how to write the introduction, how to write those paragraphs, and I will be giving you feedback on that. Okay, I'll give you some correction. All right, and I will take your information and show the others, because it helps. All right, helps you, because one person makes a mistake, everybody does. All right, and then they can help me explain it, because usually it's the same mistake. all right, entende. All right, it's the same mistake that people make. They're quite common, all right. So that means it's not really very difficult. Usually it's a mistake which is erros bobos, all right. That's what it is, okay, because people concentrate quite a lot on being perfect, and then under pressure they make a simple mistake, spelling mistake, or a little conjugation problem, right? But the wider grammar, usually they're okay, all right? But yes, I'll be doing that. I have to do it, okay? Because I have to force you to write. And sometimes people don't write unless they feel I'm going to look at it, all right? So on the forum, when we come, especially in the second phase, I'll be making you write every week, all right? First phase, we're going to focus a lot on TPS and vocabulary. The second phase will be writing. And then the third phase will be doing this, mixing both. And I'll be putting you to feel the pressure. Maybe you won't be ready for the exam. I don't know your level. But on week 7 of the first module, I'll open the course and I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you to find out where everyone is. And then I can advise you more specifically, more individual, what you're doing, okay? So I think there was about 40 people in the last one we did, and I think that helped a lot, all right? I need, in a way, English is different than everything else. Everyone's got Portuguese, yes? Everyone's maybe knows Brazilian history, but everyone with English and another language has a different level. Maybe it's like French and Spanish as well. And sometimes you need a bit more individual word to tell you, okay, don't do that, do this, all right? So it's very important to say don't do this sometimes, okay? Good, all right then. But yeah, I love teaching you to pass the exam. It's really fun as well for me because my intention is to push you up to the highest level, and that's the skill I love training you on. All right, it's great to see how people can produce work, and that impresses me. All right, it's and fantastic having so many great students focused here at Clipping too. All right, you do have great teachers. We do know what we're doing. So, so yes, I'll welcome you into my class, and then you'll find out even more about little old me. Okay, all the best, everyone. Good studying, and look forward to seeing you in my class. Tchau, tchau.
Antes de encerrar, um recado importante. As matrículas para o Extensivo CACD 2026 do Clipping já estão abertas. O curso que mais aprova no CACD está ainda mais completo e a condição especial de lançamento de até 36% de desconto é limitada. Então, se o seu sonho é ser diplomata, esse é o momento de começar a preparação com quem mais entende do caminho até a aprovação. No Extensivo você vai contar com mais de 560 horas aula, cobrindo todo o edital, aulas ao vivo e gravadas, a mentoria extensiva com diplomatas, além de bônus exclusivos, como workshops, grupos de estudo e oficinas de questões. Acesse o link aqui na descrição do vídeo e aproveite agora o desconto em sua matrícula.